There are four things that separate a conditioned fighter's hands from everything else, and most people work through all four without ever questioning the order or the logic behind them. They follow the drills, they put in the time, and they still end up with hands that fold under real pressure. The first two elements are straightforward. The fourth one is the one everyone talks about online. But the third one, the one that gets the least attention and the fewest dedicated minutes in any training program, is actually the reason most fist conditioning fails before it ever gets a chance to work. We are going to break all four down today, and when we get to number 3, everything else is going to make a lot more sense. This video covers the 4 elements of real fist conditioning, and it finishes with a structured 8-week program you can start this week. Shaolin monks in the Henan province of China have been doing versions of this since the 6th century. Muay Thai fighters in Thailand run daily contact work using these same principles. Bare knuckle fighters throughout history built hand density without any of the modern equipment that fills gym shelves today. None of them started by reading about it, they started by doing it. Start with wall knuckle taps. Place your knuckles flat against a wall and tap rhythmically for 30 to 60 repetitions per set. This is where bone conditioning begins, not with heavy impact, but with the lightest possible contact stimulus. Once that produces no soreness, move to knuckle push-ups on a mat. Once those become comfortable, progress to knuckle push-ups on a hard floor. After that, introduce controlled strikes against a sandbag. Each stage only moves forward when the previous one no longer creates discomfort. And the reason is Wolff's Law, which states that bone tissue adapts in direct response to the mechanical stress placed on it over time. This is the same mechanism that causes the forearms of professional tennis players to be measurably denser than those of the average person. It is also what allows Shaolin monks to break stone slabs without fracturing their hands, but that adaptation only happens when the stress is applied gradually. Bone does not respond well to sudden, heavy impact. It responds to consistent, incremental loading across weeks and months. Trying to rush the process does not speed up the adaptation. It creates micro fractures that heal improperly and leave the hands weaker than when you started. Take your knuckles and rub them slowly across a coarse surface, a rough cloth, a canvas bag, or a textured wall, for short sets across multiple sessions per week. That is a friction drill, and it is one of the 2 primary methods used to toughen the skin on the knuckles. The second method is rice bucket conditioning. Drive your closed fist into a bucket of dry rice repeatedly, pulling it back out and driving it in again for controlled sets. This is a method that appears in Okinawan karate, traditional East Asian martial arts systems, and the conditioning routines of bare knuckle fighters going back centuries. What both of these do is cause the outer skin layers to callus over time, building a surface layer of durability that reduces the chance of cuts and abrasions under real contact. The skin adaptation only works when recovery time is built in between sessions. If either method produces bleeding or open wounds, the intensity is too high and the frequency is too close together. Skin toughening is slow, and that slowness is the process, not a problem with it. Get into a push-up position on your palms, do a set, then shift to your closed fists, do another set, then shift to the backs of your hands and do a third. After that, hold a static fist position for time without moving, just maintaining the structural load on the wrist joint while it is properly aligned. Add grip work and forearm exercises to support all of this. That is what wrist reinforcement training looks like, and it is the element that nearly every fist conditioning program online buries at the end or skips entirely. Here's why that is a problem. A conditioned knuckle sitting on top of a weak wrist is structurally useless. The force of a punch does not stay in the hand. It travels through the wrist joint on impact, and if that joint is not backed by reinforced tendons, ligaments, and supporting musculature, the energy disperses before it transmits properly, and the joint absorbs damage it was never designed to handle. Research published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine identified wrist and hand injuries as among the most common acute injuries in boxing, and a significant portion of those injuries occur not from the knuckles making contact incorrectly, but from the wrist collapsing or rotating under the force of impact. Every other element in this program gets undermined the moment the wrist gives way. This is the element that should be receiving at least as much training time as the knuckles, and it almost never does. Place your weight on your first two knuckles, the index and middle finger knuckles, and perform standard knuckle push-ups for your working sets. Then rotate your fist so the knuckles face downward with the wrist bending backward, and run another set of inverted fist push-ups from that position. Keep the wrist straight and stacked directly above the contact point throughout every repetition of both variations. These two drills build the structural integrity of the knuckles themselves, which is different from the broader bone density work in element 1. What is happening here is more specific. The tendon strength around the joint is increasing, the loading capacity of the joint is improving, and the surrounding musculature is learning to stabilize under stress. The inverted variation loads the knuckle from an angle that does not appear in standard training and targets support structures that would otherwise go underdeveloped. Alignment matters in both exercises. A bent or rotated wrist during any knuckle push-up trains poor mechanics directly into the movement pattern and increases injury risk every time you do it. The program runs 6 active days per week with 1 recovery day and 1 full rest day. There are 3 session types. A light session covers wall knuckle taps, soft surface knuckle push-ups, rice bucket work, and wrist circles with extended holds. A medium session moves to hard floor knuckle push-ups, friction drills, the full range of wrist push-up variations, and light sandbag strikes. A hard session runs high repetition knuckle push-ups, sustained sandbag striking, and extended static wrist holds for time. The weekly layout runs day 1 light, day 2 medium, day 3 hard, day 4 recovery, day 5 medium, day 6 hard, day 7 complete rest. Weeks 1 through 3 are the adaptation phase, where the body is simply being introduced to the stimulus across all 4 elements without being pushed into injury. Weeks 4 through 6 increase the repetitions and duration on everything already established. Weeks 7 and 8 push to peak intensity before the program concludes. 8 weeks of this, done consistently and progressed correctly, he takes someone through every stage of bone stimulation, skin adaptation, wrist reinforcement, and knuckle loading in a sequence that mirrors what traditional combat systems have refined over centuries. The results are not dramatic or instant, but they are the same type of results that the athletes and monks who developed these methods built their entire physical practice on. If this gave you something useful, subscribe so you catch the next one.